more Go malware. Let's talk about Klingon RAT.
So, Andy, I understand you have some information about a remote access Trojan.
I don't know why they named it Klingon RAT. I didn't get any references to Star Trek in there, but nonetheless, it is a RAT written in the Google Golang language. It was discovered by a security company called Intezer. They have some security products that you can purchase, and they do some security research from the looks of their website. I think it's pronounced Intezer. It's like the word integer, but there's a Z instead of a G, so I'm going to go with Intezer. Might be in teaser or a different pronunciation, I'm not sure. But what they found was interesting about this RAT, amidst all the other ones, was that it had very little code reuse, and they found that pretty interesting. A lot of malware authors will simply reuse code because it's easier. If something already works, then why rebuild it? Why reinvent the wheel if it's already there? But in this case, a lot of the code seemed to be custom, homegrown, developed in-house. A number of ways to say it, but other than that, it's a pretty well-featured RAT. It's got a lot of neat little features. It attacks antivirus through targeted process killing. It's got privilege escalation via FOD helper, disk cleanup. Some of the classics, and then it's got a number of persistence mechanisms. It's got scheduled task persistence, WMI via event subscription, registry, the run key via registry. So it has some pretty decent features in it. It's also it can do a SOX proxy. It can start a reverse shell, an RDP listener, runs PowerShell. It offers full remote control of the victim machine. So, it's a RAT. you don't want that on your computer. But the aspects that I found interesting were, number one, the fact that there was very little code reuse. So someone spent a lot of time and energy on this thing. And the other interesting aspect is the fact that it was written in Go. Over the past few years, we've seen Go malware kind of become much more prevalent and ubiquitous, and that trend seems to just continue upward. But I wanted to get your guys' opinion on what you thought of Go malware in general, and if you had any specific thoughts about Klingon RAT.
I don't think I have any specific thoughts about Klingon RAT. When you started introducing the topic, I thought you were going to say it was written in Klingon programming language. But we're not there yet, it looks like. I agree with you. Go-based malware has been on the increase. It's actually, from a reverse engineering perspective, can sometimes be quite more difficult to reverse engineer something that's written in Go versus something that was, let's say, written in C. I would say the industry over the last 10 years has come a long way for doing better at decompiling C-based programs or things that were maybe written, probably not assembly, but C-based. Has been really good, like Ghidra, IDA Pro are really solid at that. But if you take it to the next level, things written in C++ or Delphi or Go, things get a little bit trickier. There's a lot more you have to account for in order to do a good job reverse engineering. And so I wonder if the adversaries are really thinking about that, or are the adversaries more thinking about it just being a very good programming language for them in order to, is it the difficulty of reverse engineering, or is it more nope, this is just a programming language that we like to use? But no matter what, I feel like it says something about who wrote it. Because when I see malware that's written in C, I immediately think of a specific type of person. When I see malware written with Delphi, I think of someone else. And when I think about somebody who's using Go, which, is a newer programming language, it makes me think that the people who wrote it are newer on the scene relatively, as opposed to, let's say, someone who wrote their malware in Delphi. which a lot of people probably don't really even remember or know how to use or how to program in it. But some people really love doing that. So even the programming language, I think, gives something away. Of course, it would be cooler if it was written in Klingon, so we could have like a little more fun between me and Jim reversing it. But I guess we'll just have to settle for Go.
Yeah, I'd hate to have to pull out my Klingon dictionary while I was reverse engineering the malware, but yeah. Now, I agree, Stan, that the fact that they're using Go probably suggests that this is a newer group or individual. The folks that have been writing their malware in C for 20, 30, 40 years are probably just going to continue to write it in C because that's, they know it, that's easy. And while, for those of us with computer science backgrounds, when you learn one programming language, it's relatively easy to pick up another one. But when you get comfortable with something, why change it unless you have to? And I thought it was interesting that this malware will install some new certificates and then go ahead and open a TLS connection to try to encrypt their command and control traffic. I haven't really looked at it to see if you can grab the certificates off there, whether you can decode that TLS traffic or not. I may have to get my hands on a sample just to play with that a little bit, but then it does all the usual things. It can act as a proxy. You can open reverse shells. The bad guys can RDP in. They can run arbitrary executables. They can run PowerShell commands. All the usual things that you kind of come to expect out of rats, out of remote access Trojans. So yeah, but once they're in, they pretty much have the keys to the kingdom. So at that point, it's probably time to wipe the system and start over again from scratch.